I love Burning Crusade. I love it so much because I've got the best memories from this expansion. I love the music. I love the ambiance. It just takes me back. And it just so happens it's the most profitable place for me, at least in my opinion. And maybe it's got something to do with the way I do it.
I'm not stopping till we're exalted, sitting up with fucking millions. I ain't halted, I'm quick to pick it up and kill him. I take what he left off and continue to grill him. Electrified, I'm turning up the wattage. I'm a stalker with a machete outside your cottage. Once you're spotted and dotted, you're dropping and rotting. Me and X are just the opposite of Batman and Robin.
Welcome everyone, this is the Exalted One, and I'm gonna tell you about my favorite way to waste hours upon hours farming in Burning Crusade. This farm is not for the faint of heart. It's long, and I have an even longer one, but it's so profitable and so worth it in its entirety that I just wanted to make a video to highlight exactly how we're gonna break this one up. So if you watched my other previous videos where I combine zones to try and maximize the herb and ore gathering with other things, we're gonna do exactly that, but this time right here in Burning Crusade, combining Terracarr Forrest, Nagrand, and Shadowmoon Valley all in one big farm that should essentially take you about 45 minutes or so to complete one lap. What the hell is the point of all this? Well, I am glad you asked. So Burning Crusade was a huge expansion. I'm not talking in like the amount of things they put into the expansion. I'm talking literal land mass. Like the zones are huge, really, really huge. And even though I have the fastest flying speed possible, it still feels like it takes years to get from one node to the next. And using potions or anything else to increase the speed at which you gather doesn't really do it justice. There's really no way to actually speed up doing anything in BC. Which is why I think most people tend to stick to these little niche one-off farms where they don't have to focus on covering all this ground. However, I've come to the realization that the more potentially profitable things you can cram into farming while following this route, the better off that you'll be. For instance, we're gonna start off from Shattrath and we're gonna head right towards the cliffs. The first thing we're gonna see is probably a Dream Glory because that node always spawns and it's always there for me like a loyal little herb. But all along this ridge there's basilisks, and those basilisks drop eyes at a pretty low drop rate. But wait, Exalted, why are we gonna farm basalisk eyes, dude? Ain't nobody switching their factions 10 years later, man. And well, I'm here to tell you that they do, for whatever reason. Be it transmog, old enchants, who knows? And while they don't sell consistently, there's always some motherfucker out there that buys them in bulk quantity. And when you get that mail containing 30 to 40,000 gold, you're gonna want to have a few of these stockpiled, just for a rainy day. But you're not gonna wanna purely focus on farming them because I don't think it's worth it on its own. The drop rate is low, sometimes non-existent, and there are other far more profitable things to do with your time. The same goes for the spiders. I forget which faction uses what, but if you wanna switch to the other faction, you need to collect the spider sacs. They also sell for around the same price. Well, maybe a little less because the drop rate is a bit higher, but again, these sell in bulk quantities when someone really wants to buy them. It would also be advantageous to maybe throw up a message in general chat saying that you'll pay X amount for people who are there questing, but you'll have to take note that while it's a great idea to try to flip this stuff, most of the people leveling here are probably on different servers, and unless you're on a connected realm, you can't trade stuff like that. Maybe one day, but not today. Moving on, we're gonna head into Nagrand, and we're gonna keep an eye out for any potential herbs and ores, but in Nagrand, we're mainly gonna focus on elementals along our way. Not in the typical elemental plateau fashion, where people usually farm these, because the people who multi-box or make this a dedicated farm are literally to this day still over there doing their thing. But specifically focus on the air elementals leading up to Oshu'gan. I mean, really, you can do this however you want because there are many routes for mining and herbing on your way. Like, you can go through the valley near the Ring of Trials or the more southern portion near Kill Sorrow Fortress, but Because there are only earth elementals through there, it's not really worth the time when you'll be getting motes of earth from the ores that you mine along the way. And motes of earth are extremely plentiful as it is. And so the air elementals are far more worth your time investment. And you'll also see why later when it comes to getting to Shadowmoon Valley. So our goal here is to go to Oshu'gan, and we've got a plethora of void walkers that roam around, elementals that drop motes of shadow. Of course, this can be a farm on its own, but I usually end up doing 2 circles around Oshu'gan, keeping an eye out for other air elementals and herbs and ores at the same time. You kind of have to do this little weaving in and out at some points because I have the maximum environment detail and the view distance set, and these zones are so large that sometimes the herb and ore nodes just won't show up on your minimap until you're basically in butt humping distance. So just remember that if you're not seeing that many nodes or ores or herbs in your passing, that may be a reason why. After we've got our fix for shadow elementals, the reason I do 2 circles around Oshu'gan is because by the time I'm done, most of the nodes or air elementals that we've killed earlier would have respawned by now. And so we can go kill them again on our way back through Terracarr Forest all over again, where we'll be following the outside of the ridge and killing spiders and basilisks and keeping an eye out for Terracoon, Dreaming Glory, Fel Iron, Adamantium, and the most consistently high price selling item of all time that has still for some ungodly reason holds its value, Khorium. Khorium is a godsend. Anyway, I don't know the spawn rates or where or how all this stuff works, but with this style of farm, I usually end up finding one every 20 to 40 minutes or so. And I'm not sure if that's because of the ground I cover, if it's in relation to the people who are out here farming also, or whatever the case may be. Just know that your results might be different. There's a little area with a bunch of spiders across Auchindoun where I'll be killing some of their sacs, their tiny little scrotums, and even Netherweb Spider Silk, which doesn't really sell for much, but we can sell it anyway. I go up a little bit to where the Erico bird people are because there's always a few nodes here and there, and you've got 1 or 2 choices. You can either go up into Sketti's now, which usually has some good pickings, or you can circle around near Alarian and Stormbreaker strongholds, and loop back around hitting the basilisks all along the ridge down to bonechewer ruins. If you didn't clear out Sketti's and just went straight for the loop, you can go up from bonechewer ruins and clear it out now, circle around, and then drop down into Shadowmoon Valley. Now, starting off in Shadowmoon Valley is a bit weird because it feels to me like sometimes there's really no rhyme or reason why a particular herb or ore would be placed where it is. But I've kind of done this farm so many times, I guess I sort of know where to look. So all I can really say here is spend some time trying to figure out where these spawns regularly occur and develop a route for yourself. Either way, you should sort of orient yourself and aim for the little valley or area behind the Sanctum of the Stars that leads into those singing crystals, and finally like where all those drakes land near Dragonmaw Fortress. That's where we'll be trying to kill all those air elementals on our way through. Now, this is one of 3 or 4 areas in Shadowmoon that are constantly being farmed for motes or primals or whatever. So if there's someone here questing or farming, don't worry, we're just gonna go check for herbs and ores and keep on going. This is essentially why we hit the elementals in Nagrand beforehand. But there's 2 ways you can handle this situation as well. Either you can sweep across near Black Temple near Warden's Cage, where you'll go sort of to the area right between the Altar of Shatar and Coilscar Point. The edge up there has more air elementals that usually aren't farmed as much because the terrain is kind of jacked up, so it sort of makes it hard. But I've seen people farm here, just not as much as the other areas, so kind of evaluate and adjust accordingly. I usually hit both of these areas regardless though. If you didn't go straight for the other air elementals, you can do what I normally do and head straight for the Hand of Gul'dan, which is a prime spot for farming the green fire elementals. They drop Motes of Fire, which just always sell for so goddamn much. So don't be surprised if you see people here constantly farming. You either can be aggressive and try to steal some kills, or you can focus on the little plateau where the pools of green lava are, and nobody really seems to concentrate on them. Either way, at least you'll get a few motes. If all else fails, wake your ass up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do some farming before you head out to work. Speaking of which, all throughout the Hand of Gul'dan, you'll see Nightmare Vine, Fel Weed, Adamantium, and Fel Iron, so be sure you scoop those up as well. Now, whether you farm the Air Elementals first or went for the Fire Elementals instead, you need to find your way to Coil Scar Point because there are Water Elementals throughout here that drop Motes of Water. Now, you don't have to do these because Motes of Water or Primal Water really sell for an average price, but it may be worth it to just kill this shit on your way and maximize your time here, because even though it's average, they do sell. Leaving Shadowmoon Valley, be sure to scope out the ridge around Shadowmoon Village, specifically the Arakoan campground or nest or whatever they roam around in, because there's definitely some herbs to be had there too. Once we leave Shadowmoon, we're going to head back towards Terracarr Forest, and the only thing you're going to want to really focus on is the herbs and ores that you can grab along the way. You're going to see the basilisks along this point, but for some reason, and I don't know if it's just me, the basilisk eyes never ever drop from here. So I skip them. And even if they did, I think about by this time we farmed enough basilisks and spider sacs on the way that we can just safely skip them anyway. We'll be more focused on the Arakoan areas up ahead and in the cliffs where the basilisks do again drop eyes, but there's more ores and herbs to be had here instead. This should finally bring you back into Shattrath where you'll probably see my man Wind Trader Lethrai. Me and this motherfucker go back for days, so if you do, tell him Exalted said what's up and you seen this guide on YouTube. And maybe he'll give you that special pricing, if you know what I'm saying. Nah, we can only hope though, but that's essentially it. You can do this farm again, or you can just go ahead and list the stuff in the auction house and call it a day. I'm sure there's gonna be something in there with some kind of value to someone. I also have another farm in BC that I do when it seems like everyone and their mother is out here either farming or questing and it just doesn't seem worth it to do. It's my alternate route for farming, and although I don't think it's quite as good as this one, I'll probably end up showing you that at some point in time, because it's just worth it to know what your options are. And maybe somebody out there has already done it, or maybe they've got better ideas and can list them in the comments. And I think I'd like that. So be on the lookout for that. Until next time, thanks for taking the time out and watching. I definitely appreciate it.